Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a medical mystery that is just absolutely fascinating and honestly wildly misunderstood. We are talking about that persistent ringing in the ears. If you've ever heard a random phantom noise in a totally quiet room, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what is actually happening inside our heads when that happens? Well, the answer is way more complex and way cooler than you might think. We've pulled together some incredible clinical insights today, so let's jump right in and see what's really going on. Just think about this quote for a second. Experiencing tinnitus is like eavesdropping on your brain talking to itself. I mean, that is a massive paradigm shift, right? For centuries, people just assumed this was strictly a problem with the ear. But as we're going to see today, the noise you're hearing isn't really an ear problem at all. It's fundamentally a brain phenomenon. Your brain is literally generating the sound of its own internal chatter.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the phantom sound, then look at it's in your brain, followed by turning up the volume. After that, we'll hit types and red flags and wrap things up with rewiring the brain.
Okay, section 1, the phantom sound. Get this, roughly 1 in 7 people worldwide deal with this auditory sensation. 1 in 7? To put that into perspective, that is like 6 million people in the UK alone. It's a condition that's basically been annoying humanity since ancient Babylon, and it's plagued some of history's greatest minds. We're talking Charles Darwin, Leonardo da Vinci. It is incredibly common, yet for the people experiencing it, it can feel surprisingly isolating. So, clinically speaking, tinnitus is the perception of a noise. It could be ringing, buzzing, hissing, whistling, or even clicking. But the catch is it occurs with zero external sound source, none. It's this persistent extra sound that's essentially the result of a background sensory signal. Normally, your central auditory system is super efficient at just filtering that out. But with tinnitus, that filtering system kind of just fails.
Which brings us to section 2. It's in your brain.
This is where it gets crazy. Sound information gets processed in your auditory cortex, which is organized a lot like the keys on a piano keyboard. But when we lose our hearing, whether that's from loud noises, toxic medications, or just getting older, that internal keyboard gets messed up. With some of the keys broken, there's a drop in normal activity. And because of that, the nerves in those specific areas basically get bored. So what do? They start to fire off spontaneously on their own.
Let's walk through this biology step by step, like dominoes falling. Step 1, cochlear cells in the ear die or get damaged. Because you have fewer cells sending information, step 2 happens. Weaker incoming nerve signals reach the brain. Now, the brain absolutely hates losing data. It does not like that. So for step 3, it throws more energy into monitoring the hearing pathway, actively cranking up its own baseline volume to catch whatever weak signals are left. Finally, step 4, this totally unregulated, overactive chattering of nerve cells creates an abnormal neural synchronization. The physical neural code for silence gets permanently altered, and boom, you've got a phantom sound.
Moving right along to section 3, turning up the volume.
Okay, to really wrap your head around this, think back to an old analog TV or radio. When a station is coming in weak, what do? You tweak the tuning knob and you crank the volume way up to try and catch the music, right? But by turning that volume knob up exactly where silence ideally should be, you end up blasting this constant background hiss out of the speaker. Well, your brain is doing the exact same thing to process those weak auditory inputs. It accidentally amplifies its own internal background static. So the real light bulb moment here is realizing that tinnitus is essentially phantom limb syndrome, but for sound. Just like someone might feel phantom limb pain after an arm or leg amputation, tinnitus is a phantom sound that pops up after a sound amputation. The brain is desperately searching for input from a source that is just missing, and in the process, it ends up generating its own artificial sensation. All right, let's get a bit more clinical in section 4, types and red flags. Doctors basically break this down into 3 primary classifications. First up is primary tinnitus. This one has no clear root cause other than just basic sensory neural hearing loss. Next is secondary tinnitus, where there actually is an identifiable underlying cause. This could be something super simple, like impacted earwax or an ear infection, or something much more complex, like multiple sclerosis, or even side effects from chemo drugs like cisplatin. And finally, there's objective tinnitus. This is wild. Objective tinnitus is a sound that can literally be heard by a doctor if they use a stethoscope around your ear. It's usually caused by turbulent blood flow from cardiovascular issues. And because of those systemic links, doctors will often order blood tests just to check for things like anemia, diabetes, or thyroid disorders. Now, please pay close attention to this next part.
While subjective tinnitus by itself doesn't have inherently negative physical consequences, there are several severe red flags that mean you need a specialist assessment right away. If the ringing is unilateral, meaning it's only in one ear, or if the sound is pulsatile, like a heartbeat, which points to a cardiovascular issue. Also, if you experience sudden hearing loss, vertigo, facial nerve palsy, or even suicidal ideation related to how distressing the sound is, all of these warrant urgent medical investigation and potentially even CT or MRI scans to rule out things like vascular malformations or acoustic neuromas.
And finally, Section 5, rewiring the brain. Modern imaging shows us something really important. This abnormal neural synchrony doesn't just stay neatly in the auditory center. Instead, these faulty signals literally invade the areas of your brain that regulate attention, emotions, and stress. It creates this brutal psychological loop. For some people, the episodes trigger really distressing feelings, which then just increases how intrusive the sound feels. It can exacerbate PTSD, insomnia, and depression, creating this vicious cycle of anxiety that actually amplifies the perceived volume of the ringing.
Okay, so how do we break this cycle? Well, while there is no known cure for subjective tinnitus, we can absolutely manage and master it. First, treat the underlying causes. Like we said earlier, sometimes it really is as simple as a doctor removing some stubborn earwax. Second, hearing aids. This is actually a brilliant fix. By turning up the environmental volume around you, your brain stops straining to hear and actually turns down its own internal volume. Third, we have acoustic neuromodulators, which are designed to potentially reverse that abnormal neural synchrony. And finally, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This helps patients completely reevaluate their relationship with the sound, basically decoupling the noise from their anxiety and stress.
We can also physically intercept these signals using sound therapy, which comes in two really fascinating forms. On one side, you have informational masking. This is where you use complex, soothing sounds, think rain, ocean waves, birdsong, to just distract the brain from the internal noise. But on the other side, we have energetic masking. This is super targeted. Therapists use sounds tuned to the exact same frequency as the patient's specific tinnitus. It physically occupies the neurons that would otherwise be delivering that faulty ringing signal. Tinnitus ultimately shows us that your brain is constantly actively trying to analyze the world around you, even as it totally struggles to filter out its own internal noise. Which leaves us with a pretty empowering question to end on. If tinnitus is really just your brain overanalyzing a quiet world, how can you reevaluate your relationship with silence to take back control? The sound of true silence might be lost, for sure, but mastery over your mind's reaction to it, that is entirely within your grasp. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and I really hope this deep dive sparked your curiosity and brought some serious clarity to such a fascinating condition.